I have known Gerald Heaney for at least 45 years. I've seen him in every imaginable situation, dealing with people one-on-one, with large groups. I didn't observe him in the courtroom, but I read his decisions. And I could say of Gerald Heaney, he has no equal in the law. He has no peer in his quest for equal justice under the law. And his zest for intellectual combat, for the causes of the neediest among us, his grand strategy view of the needs of the people of Duluth, of indeed all of northeastern Minnesota, are unparalleled. His passing leaves a huge hole, but a great legacy. His shadow will loom large over all of the investments and changes and developments of the quest of the people of northeastern Minnesota for economic gain, for a better future. If there is one legacy of which he would be most proud, it would be his decision in the St. Louis, Missouri School District desegregation case. His book sums it up best. Excellent public schools are essential in a democracy. Segregated housing, a long history of discrimination in education and employment, and the historic lack of opportunity for African Americans to participate fully and equally in all aspects of life make the task ahead a challenging one. But for 20 years, he presided over the desegregation of the St. Louis school systems. There is no greater legacy than that, in investment in equal opportunity in education and in life for all.
Most public figures, over time, their name will fade. After Jerry Heaney's name has faded to the point where you might need to look him up in a history book, what will the legacy be that citizens continue to interact with? What will be the change in our society that he made that's permanent?
Well, first of all, physically his name will never fade because it's on a bronze plaque on the federal courthouse in Duluth forever. It will be there as long as that granite endures. What will endure in the history books will be his decision in the St. Louis school desegregation case. There is no more noble quest. There was nothing of which he personally was more proud, except perhaps when the U.S. forces reached the Elbe. And there were to meet with the Brits and the Russians on the next morning and fly their flags. And he asked, "Where is our flag?" And his unit didn't have one. So he went into this French village and found seamstresses who could put a flag together, and they got together red, white, and blue cloth, and all night long they, under his supervision, cut the stars, cut the stripes, sewed them together, and the U.S. had their flag to fly with the Russians and the Brits. That flag he carried back with him. He displayed it only occasionally on Labor Day and perhaps one or two other occasions. But his love of country, his sense that this flag represented our presence and the triumph in World War II, were like his quest for justice, unending, unquenching.
You knew him as a good friend. When you think back on Jerry Heaney, and you think about the accomplishments he made and had in his career, what is it personally about him that you'll think back on that drove those accomplishments?
His insatiable quest for information, for knowledge, to do better, his constant questioning, challenging of people when they're pursuing a course of action. Though he was judge, he was also engaged in the economic development of Duluth, the Iron Range, the North Shore, all of northeastern Minnesota. And he never hesitated to challenge people, to question their approach and make them think through what they were doing, to make them better than they would be perhaps left alone.
You talked to him recently. Can you tell me what that was like in his last few days?
He was he had just moved about in his room, was being resituated. I called to just to chat with him, tell him what we were doing in the Congress, that we were engaged in our committee in drafting 15 legislative responses to the oil spill in the Gulf and to have better standards. And I said, Jerry, we could use you here. We could use your legislative draftsmanship, your judicial clarity of thought. And he laughed at that. I said, I'm very pleased that you've been moved to the Benedictines. They'll make you pray. And he said, prayer would be a good thing. And we laughed at that. He was ready to be moved again in the room, and we had to shorten the conversation, but I just told him that I've kept him in my nightly prayers and morning invocations to the Lord, and he said, keep praying, it'll do good.
He was engaged to the last.
He was, his mind was alert and keen, sense of humor was there, a little ability to laugh at himself, seizing and it wasn't just, I said, we're working on this legislation. He said, well, do it, you've got to stop this. Right to the very last, his mind was engaged in the greater questions of our society and its current state.